Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports. Coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the number one network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the number one sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, and London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. We love you in Africa, the Big C tribe, but there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful June the 24th, 2020. Rondo Deportes, Big C is still trying to find his way back south after leaving the Tulsa POTUS convention rally. It's all fair level war. Sometimes you gotta trust your GPS when it says turn left and you turn right. Big C, I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars. Also, Big C Sports is powered all over the world by Google and Alexa. Just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he'll do his thing from 3,000 miles away. And I really appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. Coming to Spotify soon. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you better have a smart TV or you'll be sitting there looking at a still picture. Man, love doing the Big C pause. It's all fair, love, and war. Everybody's pausing, but I'll never pause on the Veterans Crisis Hotline. They are experienced in helping veterans and their loved ones get some help. 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net, and they can get some help. Also, very happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV on Dish TV, Direct TV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the San Francisco Giants. And when you reach out to them, let them know that Big C sent you. Our goal is simple: recruit 100 real estate brokers, put their property listings on TV. If car companies are doing it, restaurants are doing it, let real estate work for you. Sports teams are starting to do it again too. Let TV and real estate work together. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. If you're looking for opportunities in real estate, go to bigcsports.pacwm.com. That's bigcsports.pacwm.com, and you can get some opportunities there. Really appreciate a lot of good things that are happening. There's a program that's actually already on. In fact, it may have already been over, and it was actually on CNN tonight, and I put it on my DVR because I want to watch it, but I don't want to watch it more than I want to watch The Oval. Okay, I'm just hooked on The Oval. It's by Tyler Perry, and it's on BET. It comes on at 9 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, and I love it. It's a family in the White House, and they have a futuristic view. The president, they have a Caucasian president. He has an African-American wife. And so they have a biracial family in the White House. They have the Secret Service that's all up to all kind of shenanigans. Big C, I don't know if it's based on any type of realism or not, but they have a lot of the Secret Service doing a lot of the shenanigans. And then POTUS, they have POTUS as a Caucasian president that has multiple girlfriends. I guess they're bringing in the JFK, if that makes any sense to you, Big C. All fair, love, and war. But I really want to see The Oval. But tonight, there's a program on ESPN, the mothership. You see, ESPN, when Big C Sports says things about you, we mention your name. When you steal our content, you don't say anything. You just act like it came from the universe. They don't mention the Big C Sports universe. It's called The Undefeated, and it presents Time for Change. We won't be defeated. And it basically is examining black athletes' experiences with injustice and the unifying role that sports continues to play in the bridging the divide between law enforcement and then also African Americans and communities of color too. Everybody knows we all need everyone to participate in creating a more perfect union. So I put it on my DVR. I haven't had a chance to see it yet because it was just coming on. I think it came on at 5 o'clock. I got to make sure I do the time, but you can look for it. It's called The Undefeated, Time for Change, and We Won't Be Defeated. So that's a program that I really want to look at. It's a lot of like everything else we talk about in life. It's making sure that people can have dialogue. And when you have dialogue, things change, and they change for the better. So I really appreciate looking forward to that. Also, I want to mention, we know we're going to have baseball back. And I like doing my role of baseball. The score is tied at 7, bottom of the ninth, World Series Game 7. And again, it's tied at 7. And here's the pitch. Hit deep. Right field. Back to the wall. Home run. Now, that's my rendition of a baseball home run call. Ironically, there won't be any fans. So there's not going to be any type of sound effect. But I know baseball is something that a lot of people have been waiting for. I remember when I was a young boy, my first dance at baseball was in the backyard playing with my brothers. We actually had put up a pitching mound. My older brother, one of my older brothers, he put up a pitching mound. It was about a foot off the ground, and we even had a little, pitcher's mound there, and we had about 60 feet, I believe, because that's what Little League is. It was 60 feet to home base, and we would go and throw pitches at each other and then catch, and we did everything we could to make sure that we at least had this simulation of baseball, and all of us went on to become all-stars and then playing on in high school. And I didn't play in college, but I really had a lot of fun playing Little League baseball when I was a young boy. So now that we have baseball is back, I know everybody has their own thoughts about who's going to win this year in the World Series. There's already some talk, and wouldn't this be great if the universe could orchestrate this? Major League Baseball, LA Dodgers versus the New York Yankees, their favorite to play in the 2020 World Series. Really, you can put an asterisk by it for the COVID-19 season. I don't know anyone that would not want to see the two largest cities in the country playing for a championship. It just, if they can manufacture things, you hear about manufacture to run in baseball, how they manufacture run. Down in Houston, they understand how to manufacture runs, because see, they just got to spread their knowledge to the rest of Major League Baseball, if that makes sense to you. But if we can have a Yankees-Dodgers series, New York Yankees, Los Angeles Dodgers, they are the consensus favorites if you believe in everything that comes out of Las Vegas. They never lie down in Vegas, Big Z. Sometimes the team you bet on loses, so the house keeps the money. But if in a World Series, in a season that really has been unlike any other in the world of baseball, having COVID-19, people testing positive, even if Major League Baseball is saying we're ready to start, let's play ball. They're going to play ball. So the Yankees and Dodgers, they're co-favorites at 7-2 to win the World Series at the Caesars Sportsbook down there in Vegas. Houston Astros, they are next at 11-1. And in fact, there's a lot of people that have been spying on what's going on down in Houston, if that makes sense to you. They denied that they spied, but those cameras were just, what happened to the videotape? Does anyone ever know what happened to all the video cameras? Anyway, Big C, all fair and level war. Hey, like they say in Texas, I played football with a guy from Texas. He said, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. But all that's kind of water under the bridge. Atlanta Braves and Minnesota Twins, who are 15-1 at Caesars. So Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred announced a plan for a 60-game regular season that's expected to begin July 23rd or 24th, at least until late September. And then teams will play their 4 divisional opponents 10 times and 5 interleague opponents in the same geographical area, 4 games apiece. The playoff format is what's a little bit different. It remains the same as in recent seasons with 10 teams and 3 division winners and 2 wildcard teams from each league reaching the postseason. But the way that is different is, if you recall, last year's World Series champion, Washington Nationals, they got off to a pretty bad start. And it was at the halfway mark of the season that they started playing better. They started to gel. They started to work better together. The manager got a lot out of them. and they came on down the stretch to become the best team in baseball. But it took them half the season to even get to that point. So at this point, a 60-game season doesn't give the Washington Nationals a chance to do what they did last year, because they started slow, but they finished fast, and sometimes, you miss that. But you got to start off fast, kind of like in track and field. If you start out fast, you have a better chance at winning, as opposed to starting out late and then coming back. So with the condensed season and the uncertainty caused by COVID-19, odds makers have long shots that could surprise. No matter what you think about it, if you think about baseball, it's what they say, football's or basketball's a make or miss league. Well, of course, if you make it, you get a point. If you miss it, you don't get a point. Unless you're down on the take in Las Vegas, and that's when the prop betting comes in. I've seen some guys miss a shot and get the foul called on them anyway. You can name just a couple of guys in the league that can not get touched, fall to the ground, and someone calls a foul, and they say it's a miss or make league. No, it's a who you bet on league and who's controlling the money. So in addition to the favorite teams, especially the Yankees and the Dodgers out of the American and National League, the Blue Jays and the Detroit Tigers, Colorado Rockies. In Colorado, the ball flies really hard. But there are a lot of teams that have a chance. All you need is a chance. My hope is that the San Francisco Giants will be challenging the Los Angeles Dodgers in the NLCS. That's what I hope, because with the real estate station that covers the San Francisco Giants. But if you look at them, I mean, they've won 3 World Series in the last 10 plus years. That was under the great Bruce Bochy. It's always great when the Giants. I think the Giants do have the best stadium in Major League Baseball. When I did earlier in the year, Big C, my Major League Baseball stadiums, best places to watch a baseball game. Of course, no matter what you think about Chavez Ravine, it's kind of far from the field, the lower seats, but it's still a great place with the history. And then I looked at Wrigley Field in Chicago, just a neighborhood, kind of the old rustic-looking stadium in the middle of neighborhoods in Chicago, Illinois. I have a friend that lives close to Wrigley Field. He loves going there. And you can have a good time outside of the stadium with all the libations that flow, because they flow in the Windy City, and he likes to let them flow also. And then I also thought that people might laugh, but I think one of the better ballparks also, I love Yankee Stadium because it's a new version of the old rustic stadium that was torn down, but it's pretty much the same replica, with the history behind the Yankees organization and the many championships. I'm going to say 27 championships, and maybe 25 of those were earned. But sometime in Vegas, a foul ball is not really a foul ball, and a strike is not always a strike, Big C. Sometimes it's a ball if you need the opponent to win, if that makes sense to you. But the Yankees, they've done it. You can't knock them. So those ballparks are wonderful. I also like Fenway Park in Boston, but I know even the ownership of Boston said that they had a lot of issues with racial animus and some fans saying some things that they should not have said to people of color. And I think maybe that goes on all over the place. But this is not about the best if we give out an award for the best behaved fans, then maybe the Boston Red Sox fans won't make that list. But as far as the ballpark, that old rustic, the Green Monster, to me, they could have put more seats in that stadium, but it was designed based on how the neighborhood fit together, and the Green Monster is a little bit unique. There's nothing like it, really, especially when you have all the advertisements that are around it, too. It's just a great place, an empty spot that's just a green wall. And you would think that they would have more advertising on it, but that might interfere with people being able to see the history of that stadium. And I know Atlanta has a beautiful ballpark. They just built a beautiful ballpark down in Atlanta. I know there's a lot of people that love the ballpark up in Seattle, Safeco Field. That's a nice looking place, at least when they open the dome. And so everybody has their own thoughts. Coors Field in Colorado and Denver, man, that's a big stadium. It's a cavernous stadium. Some people like it because the balls fly out there, but that's nothing like when you look at now Oracle Ballpark. Used to be Pac Bell, and then it was AT&T. But when you're looking out into McCovey Cove, and you can hit a home run and see the East Bay Hills, and you're just south of downtown, the high rise, the the tall buildings downtown from the Pyramid to Salesforce Tower. There's not much like San Francisco, watching the Bay Bridge, cars driving by from the East Bay and going over into downtown San Francisco and over into the East Bay. There's nothing like it. I mean, Pittsburgh PNC Park is a nice stadium too, but it just does not have the feel that you have in San Francisco. So if we can see an LA Dodgers, New York Yankees, or maybe a New York Yankees and San Francisco Giants World Series, I know the Giants, they surprised people before, so it's just about people taking the time to figure out what's going on. Now, Marvin Gaye sang a song, "What's Going On? Tell me what's going on." Maybe that'll be the song for the San Francisco Giants this year. Can they get to 60 and have a winning record to win the National League West? We'll see. It's all fair and love and war. In the world of golf, PGA, Brooks Koepka. This guy lifts weights, Big C. At least he looks like he lifts weights or does push-ups. But Brooks Koepka, he pulls out of the Travelers Championship this weekend after his caddy, Ricky Elliott, tested positive for COVID-19. And we've seen Novak Djokovic over the last couple of days. He tested positive COVID-19. Earlier in the year, we saw Kevin Durant. We've seen pretty much top players from every sport that has tested positive at one point in time for COVID-19. So he withdraws from the Travelers Championship after his caddy tested positive, Ricky Elliott. He's the world's fourth-ranked player, announced the decision today, some 24 hours ahead of the opening round of the PGA Tour's third event. If it's, in his restart, he was among 5 players to withdraw. Now, I know people are saying let's go forward anyway, but he was among 5 players to withdraw, including Webb Simpson, the number 5 player in the world ranking who won the RBC Heritage on Sunday. Now, if you look at what Koepka's done, even Chase Koepka, Brooks' brother, both players tested negative, but said they were exercising caution by withdrawing. The PGA Tour announced later today that it would enforce extra testing and stricter monitoring of protocols after seeing 4 positive tests out of 1,300 that have been administered since returning to play. So I hope that, number one, all the golfers are going to be safe, as well as all the other athletes in every sport. I know Koepka's one of the big names. Ironically, Tiger Woods has kept away since he had the tournament with Peyton Manning and Tom Brady and down in Florida for the COVID-19 relief. And I think it was Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Phil Mickelson, and Tiger Woods. Haven't heard anything about either one of those athletes having, coming into contact with that virus, even though for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, there have been some players and some people in the organization that have tested positive for COVID-19. So we don't know. We just hope, at least I hope, that everybody's going to stay safe and do the best they can to make sure they're not getting other people infected, because it's a shame when that happens. Also, when you think about COVID-19, I know everybody has their own thoughts about how to stay safe. California alone, positive COVID-19 cases at the new SoFi Stadium. That's home of the LA Rams and also the LA Chargers. Some people have tested positive for COVID-19. Also, Santa Anita, the racetrack in Arcadia, California, had 17 people test positive for COVID-19. 17, Big C, for COVID-19. And that's a racetrack, so you're out in the air. You're out in the open. So during his recently completed meet, the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health said the Arcadia racetrack was on Monday's list of non-residential settings with 5 or more confirmed cases of COVID-19. The list includes food and retail stores, meat processing plants, and educational settings. The track's meet ended Sunday. And this is important. The list also included SoFi Stadium. That's brand new, under construction for the NFL, for the Rams and the Chargers. That's going to be in Inglewood, right next to the LA Forum where the Lakers were winning championships back in the day. They had 16 confirmed positive tests and 2 that involved non-confirmed symptomatic staff. The stadium, which will host the Los Angeles Chargers and Rams, it is right now, as of now, scheduled to open on August 14th. So the health department allowed the track to resume racing May 15th. The track housed jockeys and trailers in the parking lot during race days, and they were tested regularly. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. my feeling with COVID-19, and everybody has their own thoughts on it, Big C, it just seems like they're getting ready for more people to just test positive. And they're going to treat the people that they have to treat. And if they can do a good job of treating them, then hopefully we can find a way to get a better vaccine if we see how people are responding to it. I don't want to be the guinea pig, and I'm not sure anybody would volunteer to be the guinea pig. But doesn't it sure look that way if we keep hearing that more and more athletes are testing positive for COVID-19? Athletes are in really good shape for the most part, and you would think that they would recover fast because they are in such peak condition, but we don't know the after effects. Like every earthquake has tremblers, and it has aftershocks. So we don't know the aftershocks of this COVID-19. I really wish some of the athletes that have tested positive and made it public, I really wish that they would come out and tell people how they're doing now, how they're feeling, because that's the only way we can all know. Now, that's their own choice, but I think if you're going to tell us you have the virus, why not tell us how you're feeling after you recovered? I think that would help a lot of people kind of get a better eye on how to deal with it. New York City, yes, New York City, the home of the nicest people in the universe. There are so many nice people in New York City. I remember when I was in New York a while back, I had bought a gold chain from a guy that opened up his jacket. He had gold watches, gold chains, Big C. I mean, it was nice. I said, my goodness, you're not afraid of being robbed with all that stuff on you? He said, no, I'm good. And so I bought a Rolex watch, presidential style, and I bought a gold chain. Well, the gold chain turned green by the time I got back to California. I guess the sweat from my neck and the humidity of New York made it turn green. It wasn't a real McCoy, Big C. And the Rolex watch, I knew something was fishy, because a Rolex, if you ever want to tell the difference between a real Rolex and not, well, the real Rolex, they don't tick. And I knew about it, but hey, $25 a gold chain and a Rolex watch, it's a good story to share from New York City. The guy was so nice. I didn't get a receipt. He said, hey, if you ever need something, come on back. I don't think I'll go back and buy from that guy, but it's all fair in love and war. New York City Marathon is now canceled due to COVID-19. I know Governor Andrew Cuomo has asked for a baseball to come back, and the Yankees and the Mets to do their practicing and, of course, playing their games in New York City. But now we have a cancellation of the 2020 New York City Marathon because of COVID-19. Race organizers, they announced that today. And New York road runners announced the cancellation of the world's largest marathon after coordinating with the mayor's office and deciding the race posed too many health and safety concerns for runners, volunteers, and spectators. So maybe POTUS will go and run a New York City Marathon, Big C. He doesn't believe in science, and he doesn't believe that any of this stuff is real. But I say people can do what they want to do, but I'm glad when the governors and the people that are supposed to keep us safe, when they actually do what they're supposed to do and keep us safe and not allow people to go out and run an event just because people feel like they want to. I think it's always important to protect the health and safety, unlike some of the people that are down in Arizona where I think POTUS got together at a university, which is where you're supposed to go to learn. There are about 3,000 people. No one wore a mask. It's crazy. So the marathon is an iconic place. It's beloved in the city of New York. I do applaud the New York road runners in putting health and safety for spectators and the runners first. They put them first, Big C, unlike what POTUS did in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where you went down there and tried to shake hands with some people. Told you, you're not supposed to be shaking hands anyway, Big C, but it's all fair level war. Just make sure you wash your hands good. But at the same time, I'm looking forward to when they do run it. They're going to push it back to November of 2021. And it's amazing. New York City Marathon, which had a record 53,640 finishers in 2019, to the world's largest 26.2 mile race, have been scheduled for November 1st. And they're only doing it to keep people safe. Isn't that the right thing to do? This is the second time in a decade that New York City Marathon has been canceled. The 2012 race was called off following damage to the city caused by Hurricane Sandy, if people recall that. So there's always light at the end of the tunnel. Runners signed for the 2020 marathon, they will have the option of receiving a refund or simply deferring the entry to the 2021, 2022, or 2023 marathon. So everybody has their own thoughts. I think most people, even if they were to allow the race to happen, having 56,000 people running in close confinement, just not smart at all, no matter what POTUS tells you or anybody else coming out of the White House. And if you can ever want to watch something that makes you laugh, White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany, whenever she answers a question, she has a big book, almost like a photo album, and it already has written in crayon the answers to any questions that anyone in the media may ask. And if they don't ask the right question as she's flipping through the crayon book with the answers on it, Big C, then she won't answer their question. But amazing. Imagine every time someone had a question that you had to open a book and turn around and see what the administration wanted you to answer to that question. That's what Kayleigh McEnany does, and I just think it's all funny. I mean, some things you got to laugh. We got to have laughter to keep ourselves going, and I really appreciate that. So the New York City Marathon is being called off. My goodness. There's so many people that have a hard time driving 26 miles, Big C. They're running 26.2 miles at New York City. I've run a 5K, but I've never run the 26 miles, and I know those athletes are in great shape. They come from all over the world, and for people that really love running, it's always a great thing to see, at least something that I really enjoy watching whenever I watch the New York City Marathon. I like to go out and do my little jogging. I do about 5 days a week. But I'm not going 26 miles. If I get a good 3 or 4 miles out, Big C, then I'm good. All fair and love and war. Won't be signing up for any 26-mile marathons. I won't be doing that. I'd be the guy coming across the line last, Big C. All fair and love and war. No shame in my game. Really appreciate that. But I really look forward to when that resumes again for the New York City Marathon. We're going to take what's called the Big C timeout, also known as the Big C pause. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about what's going on in the world of sports. And also, we have COVID-19 talk. Like Marvin Gaye said, what's going on? Tell me what's going on. We'll be back in just a moment. All right, we are back from the Big C timeout, also known as the Big C pause. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on an app that I love called Google or Alexa. Just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he'll do his thing from 3,000 miles away, and I really appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports. Say it ain't so. I know we're all dealing with COVID-19, and it's driving some people stir crazy. And I just hope that people can keep their peace of mind. We give out our Veterans Crisis Hotline for every show. I really believe that it's helped some people because I hear it on many other programs, sports programming now. I haven't always heard that. But I really appreciate, Big C, that we do that, and I love giving it out. NFL football, Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback Big Ben Roethlisberger, he says that his faith has helped him deal with some addiction that he's been dealing with. Everybody deals with something. And I'm so proud of him to come out and talk about it because people need to be helped. They need to know there's no need for feeling ashamed. There's no need for feeling like I'm not the tough guy that they want people to act like they're tough guys. If you need help, get some help. I was talking to my mother about some things today and how important it is for people to ask for help. And oftentimes, you don't want to go to someone that knows you because you feel that they may look down on you. Well, everybody has some problems. Everybody, at some point in time, they're going to have some problems to deal with. It's how you get through it. So he said, speaking over the weekend at a virtual conference for Christian men, Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback Big Ben Roethlisberger acknowledged that he's fought off-the-field vices over the years. Quote, that he said it's not always easy. He said talking, and it's a former Pittsburgh Steelers player and one of the event's hosts. People don't realize all the time that athletes go through. They're human, that they sin like everybody else. He's no different. They make mistakes. They get addicted to things. We're all human. Everybody's addicted to something, even if they don't admit it. We all need help with something in our lives. But if you don't ask for help, it's hard to get the help. People have not because they ask not. So I'm proud that you have an athlete with his name on it that's coming out talking about it, especially just having a conversation with a real estate friend of mine gave me a call today about some things that he's been going through also. People go through things. You just got to keep going through. When you're in the storm, don't stop. Just keep going through it. So as we think about athletes are not role models, I know Charles Barkley said he's not a role model. Now, he would know that. Nobody wants to be a role model, especially if you don't know the people, because people can put on a front. People who know you, they know your character, if you're decent or if you're not. But what I love about what Big Ben said is he said he thinks sometimes that athletes get put on a pedestal and that they can make mistakes. And he's fallen short, as anybody has. He's been addicted to alcohol. He's been addicted to other substances. And he said he wasn't the best man, best husband, best Christian, whatever it is. There are no perfect people on the planet. There's only people who lie about being perfect. There's only people who lie about it. I mean, even if you look at in the White House, you don't think Donald Trump's going through some kind of depression? He's been known to be a habitual liar about so many things. There's even some court documents of a lawsuit that he and Jeffrey Epstein are in up in New York that came out 2 years ago. I mean, everybody has, and we all know what happened to Epstein, but everybody, and he didn't hang himself, but everybody has their own thoughts about what happened. But everybody that goes through something, you need someone to be honest with you to get through it. I've had my own challenges over the years dealing with various things and dealing with the real estate meltdown, dealing with the loss of loved ones. And, you know, everybody goes through stuff and it can put you into a tailspin. But the thing that helps me is exercising and prayer. My mama always says pray, and I do. And sometimes if you have a praying partner, that's fine too, but sometimes you don't. So you got to learn to pray. Get on your knees and pray. I remember Denzel. I don't know Denzel Washington, so I don't want to act like I'm saying what he said, but he said in a meeting one time or in a TV program, he got on his knees and prayed. Everybody gets on their knees and prays for things. So I appreciate Big Ben Roethlisberger. It's called the event, the Man Up Pittsburgh, is hosted by an Urban Impact in connection with the Steelers coach Mike Tomlin. According to the group's mission, the 90-minute conference held virtually on Father's Day this year. Listen to this, guys, and women too. It encourages and teaches men, and I say women, to be godly leaders. To be godly leaders is kind of set yourself up for failure. No one can usurp the power of God. But just to be the best leader you can for yourself and your family, and to raise awareness of the impact of, and some people say, of fatherlessness among youth. Well, some women or men on their own do a phenomenal job raising children. You don't have to have another parent in the home. Sometimes there's a reason there's not two parents in the home. Sometimes abuse is going on. So I'd rather for a child to grow up in a home with one parent as opposed to growing up in a household where he or she has seen abuse go on daily, because domestic violence happens every 20 seconds. That's hard to believe, but every 20 seconds in the United States of America, domestic violence happens. So when people say it's easier for kids to have a father in the home, it should be a good father, not a guy who's beating up on his wife. That's just my opinion. But Big Ben Roethlisberger was part of the most recent program that included Coach Tomlin and from the Pittsburgh Steelers, and also a former Pittsburgh Pirate manager, Clint Hurdle. The quarterback's been married since 2011. I've actually married since 2011. He and his wife Ashley have 3 kids. I don't know about his personal life, so I'm not going to get into that. But I do know I've known a lot of athletes and also people in 9 to 5. I'm going to share this story that I told to my mother this morning over the phone. Because when people say you're better off having 2 parents in the household, I say you're better off if you have 2 good parents in the household. But you don't want to see people fighting. I remember when I first got into the insurance business, I was invited to a gentleman's home that I worked with. He was a mentor of mine at the time. And he invited me over. We had a bowl of chili. We were going to go see a football game. He said, hey, my wife's going to cook, and we'll just have some chili before we go to the game if you want to come by. I said, sure, I'll go by. And not that this matters, but he was a Caucasian guy, and his wife was also white. And I'm just going to say they were older than me at the time, so they were probably in their 40s. I was in my 20-something, just out of college. And I remember she had made some chili, and as he was eating the chili, we all sat down to eat. And I remember he said, "Hey, honey, you could have put more onions in the chili." And she said, well, I'm sorry, but he said, "Don't talk back to me, woman." He yelled at her just like that. And I thought he was joking at first, because I had never heard such a loud, abusive behavior growing up. I've never heard that. But he yelled at her so loud that she just sat there and put her head down, and she kind of trembled. And I felt bad for her. I almost thought that maybe he was joking for the first few, 3 or 4 seconds, because I wasn't expecting to hear that. It's like hearing a gunshot. You don't expect to hear a gunshot when you're eating a bowl of chili. But it was that loud as he said, "Don't you talk back to me, woman," just like that. So it shocked me, and I lost a lot of respect for him. But would you believe this man was a Jesus Christ-loving man, fire and brimstone? And you would have thought, man, this guy's like a pastor. But he treated his wife so bad in the household, and I don't know how she stood up and took that. They even had a teenage daughter. I don't know if they're still together, but if she has any common sense, there's no need to stay in that type of a relationship. That's one of the reasons when you hear me say after every show there's no excuse for domestic violence in the home. I never saw him hit her, but if he yelled at her that loud in front of me, who knows what he's like when there's nobody home. And I had met his wife for only the second time. She had come to the insurance company before. She was a nice lady, but I never saw a woman be yelled at like that right in front of my face. I wasn't in the home, and as I told my mom this morning talking about it, I said if I were to call the police on that situation, and I'm a black man in the house of white people, they're gonna come arrest me. And that's what went through my mind at that time. So I didn't want to be involved, but I never went to another game with Dave. He asked me if I wanted to go do another game. I mentioned his name, but not his last name. And I told him, no, I'm good. I don't like the way you treat your wife. He said, hey, don't worry about it. That's my wife. I do what I want to do. So she stayed with him. She's the one sleeping with him, not me. But if you're in those situations, women, I would just say get out. It doesn't make any sense to put your life in jeopardy for a Neanderthal that way. But she stayed with him. But I want to just go back to the story with Big Ben Roethlisberger. I appreciate him for coming out and saying that he had some issues. Not to say, good. People are happy that you have problems if you're making $100 million over your contract. You can be rich or poor. People go through issues. And even with COVID-19, our minds kind of taken off what happens with people going through substance problems. I know we pay homage to our military veterans, Big C, but a lot of people have gone through some issues. And Hollywood's no different. Think about Hollywood. Hollywood has this made-up belief that everything's perfect. Everybody looks great in Hollywood. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder, but they're always putting their best image first, even though it's full of racism and sexism and homophobia and a lot of issues. But people are, no one's perfect, but some of the world's famous pro athletes who battled substance addiction, and some won and lost that game. In Hollywood, many stars who battle addiction and have, from Elvis Presley, the late Elvis Presley, Drew Barrymore, Robert Downey Jr., Iron Man, Ben Affleck, the late Richard Pryor, the late Marilyn Monroe. We're taught in our society when COVID-19 wasn't on the scene, we're looking at athletes. Are they role models? No. Your only role model is a person in the mirror and the people who love you, the people that you can see every day that give you hugs and praise. And constructive criticism, not a smack upside the head or to yell at you because you didn't put enough onions in the chili. Like an old friend of mine, I guess I would say an old insurance partner, never really a friend, but just a guy that I worked with. Other athletes that have been hit hard and dealt with some type of addiction that have come out of it. Michael Phelps, 8-time Olympic gold medalist swimmer Michael Phelps, has not only plunged into the water, but also into drugs. In 2009, he lost his endorsement with Kellogg's after a photo emerged of him taking a hit of marijuana, which is now illegal. He just did it a couple years too soon. It's all fair love of war. I don't do this stuff, but I don't look down on anybody who does. But I have asked my doctor, could that be a substitute for high blood pressure medication? And he said, well, I can't tell you if it is or if it's not. If you want to try it, you can try it, but I can't. If you want, I can write you a prescription for it. So even the medical community's come around to it, but he did lose some contracts over that. Also, Darryl Strawberry, Major League Baseball, 4-time winning. Think about this. four-time World Series champion Darryl Strawberry, he has a tainted resume, had some cocaine and alcohol abuse, but these were guys, whether it's Michael Phelps or Darryl Strawberry, that were able to go out and perform. They were able to perform anyway, but they had the ability to come back and bounce back from it. And that's what, not everybody bounces back from everything in life, but maybe if we could look at how some of our athletes and entertainers have bounced back from drug addiction, maybe we can realize how people can fight back from COVID-19. Andre Agassi, tennis star, who failed in an amphetamine drug test, I believe it was 1996 or 1997, and he claimed that his drug usage was a result of drinking a spiked soda. Later revealed that he had done crystal meth during his career. Isn't that crazy? So some of these athletes came back and some didn't. I just hope that we can keep people in prayer but get them counseling. Josh Hamilton, Major League Baseball player, Josh Hamilton's career was delayed and derailed for 8 years as he struggled with drugs and alcohol. He began to cope in 2008, and postseason victories are now celebrated. When you think about it, what he was able to go through, they're celebrated with ginger ale rather than champagne. You know, when we talk about athletes feeling peer pressure, what do they do after every championship team wins? They pour beer all over these guys. Big C, beer or champagne all over their head, gets in their eyes, on their clothes, and we wonder how some athletes or even mainstream people have drinking problems or substance abuse problems. Ricky Williams, NFL running back, infamous for his marijuana infatuation, was busted 4 times in the past decade for violating substance abuse policies, and now has a stronger reputation as a stoner. But, you know, marijuana has been legalized on the state level, not necessarily federally, but a lot of states have legalized it on the state level. So a lot of guys lost contracts and did some time, but right now it wouldn't have mattered. Dwight Gooden, think about his curveball and his powerful fastball. Dwight Gooden, baseball is coming back, but think about how dominant this guy was. Well known in his baseball career in the late 80s, but soon tested positive for cocaine use. He entered rehab in 1986 or 87, but later relapsed and was suspended from playing in the 1995 season. There's some professional athletes now in different sports that are also dealing with that. Not everybody comes out on the winning side of it, though. I know with COVID-19, no one thinks about players that may be going through addiction. As I was praying with a friend of mine that called me, a real estate partner, and he said, man, I'm struggling. He's under shelter in place, and he's not able to get around and do a lot. And, you know, he's older gentleman, and he called me from a different state to just ask me how I'm doing and to pray with me. And we just prayed about some things and said, hey, just keep your head up, stay in prayer, make sure you exercise. This is real talk. But I told him you don't want to have any problems that you can't get help for. I told him about the hotline for that we give out to military veterans, the crisis hotline. You can give people help. I remember when I heard the news that Len Bias, he was a promising star basketball player out of Maryland University, All-American basketball player who had just been drafted by the Boston Celtics. And then 2 days later, he passed away from a cocaine overdose. And the sad thing about that, I mean, anytime someone passes away, it's sad, especially young people in the prime of their lives. Like I tell my own children, I can't make them do or not do anything. I put my hand on the Bible. I've never, ever, ever used drugs in my life, at least an illegal drug. Prescription, yes, from medication or blood pressure, etc. But never have I succumbed to that. I'm not knocking people who have. I've heard of athletes said it gave them incredible charge. They could play better when they had that stuff in their system. I'm not saying do it. I'm just saying what I've been told. This is real talk. But the guys that gave him the cocaine, he's the only one that passed away from it that night. I'm not blaming somebody else. He's the one who decided to take it. But not everybody who comes around you is good for you. I just, you know, it's a shame, but we all got to make choices. Like I tell my children, you got to be responsible for yourself. If anyone tries to pressure you, call me. So let me call my dad first. Because you know I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm not going to have anything wrong happen to you. And sometimes people who call themselves your friend, they don't care about you. Marcus Camby, Toronto Raptors, was drafted into the basketball team in 1996. 1 year later was arrested for marijuana possession. You know, they've legalized it now. Jennifer Capriati, child tennis prodigy, made the mistake of shoplifting and smoking weed as a teenager and was arrested for marijuana possession. She's since made a comeback. You know, even the guy in the Oval Office, there's some things that you can read about him and how he partied in New York City. You know, not everybody had an unclean nose, Big C. That makes any sense to you. He does sniff a lot right now when he's giving speeches. Pay attention to it. Pay attention to how many times he's wincing or having a hard time breathing in. Just pay attention. And you talk about practice. Practice? Yeah, I'm talking about practice. Allen Iverson, 1997, received a charge for marijuana possession, turned into community service as a way out of drug abuse or addiction. Everybody goes through something. Thurman Thomas, think about it. Buffalo Bills player Thurman Thomas went to 4 Super Bowls, arrested in 2004 at a hotel because guests smelled marijuana. It's legal now. They were just doing it too soon. Rasheed Wallace, basketball player, arrested at a traffic stop 2002 for marijuana possession. John Daly, the pro golfer, was a heavy drinker off the course despite he had previously won 2 majors. He went 6 years without a professional victory as a result of alcohol abuse. There's a lot of players, and whether it's athletes or actors, that have had issues. No one's talking about it now because of COVID-19, Big C. But I hope that if you have people that you haven't heard from, just check on them. I've had people checking on me lately the last couple of weeks. I really appreciate it. I remember this guy, they called him the Robo Quarterback, Todd Marinovich, football player, University of Southern California, struggled with the cocaine, alcohol and marijuana and amphetamines, and LSD. Eventually was thrown into jail over just some other issues. Tim Lipscomb, San Francisco Giants World Series winner, was stopped in 2009 for routine traffic violation and admitted to marijuana possession. Everybody has their own thoughts. One of the great receivers in the NFL, Michael Irvin, who placed 92nd on the NFL Network's top 100 players of all time, was one time busted for cocaine and marijuana possession. Lawrence Taylor, one of the most feared players in the history of the NFL, out of North Carolina, admits to having struggled with drugs early on in his rookie season. Cocaine was only the bright spot in many future, but he had a lot of issues with substance. And I remember when everybody talks about trying to find that edge, and he said he wants to go out there and play like a bunch of wild dogs. I don't want to be around any wild dogs, Big C. But just like Big Ben Roethlisberger came out and asked for help, you got to get help. Don Rogers, Cleveland Browns safety, died of cocaine poisoning less than a week before his wedding. And that was back in the day. And the only thing wrong is some of them didn't ask for help. And I know we're stuck in COVID-19, and I don't know for sure, but I would say that people who are addicted to substances, they're probably dealing with that now. And I would just hope and ask people, if you know someone out there, call and see if you can get them some help, because they really need the help. Hollywood actors and athletes who battled addiction, some won and some lost the game. But hopefully, for the people who recovered, we can figure out a way to help fight through COVID-19. Drew Barrymore, former child star Drew Barrymore's drug abuse in her teen-age years found her controversial fame, including 2 trips to rehab that motivated her to get back on track with her career. There was a doctor by the name of Dr. Drew, and he would treat all the addicts down in Los Angeles from Hollywood. People only think about athletes having issues or actors having issues. People have issues, but I believe in getting people help, not jail time. For the most part, when they were young and black and not wealthy, they were thrown in jail. When they were white, they're given rehab. Mary-Kate Olsen, the Full House actress Mary-Kate Olsen, suffered with anorexia and related cocaine addiction that led her to rehab. The Olsen twins have since signed a $55,000 pill-covered handbag, but they were able to get on to fame, even after being addicted. Lindsay Lohan, once the adorable child star in the original film The Parent Trap, Lindsay Lohan has since struggled with different aspects of her life, including drug and alcohol abuse, DUI arrest, jail time, and multiple stints in rehab because they needed help. That's why I appreciate Big Ben Roethlisberger coming out saying he needed help. River Phoenix, promising star River Phoenix, known in the 1980s role for his role in Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade. He shocked the world in 1993 or 94 when his death exposed him as a heroin addict. Could you imagine that? Not everybody makes it out. David Hasselhoff, Baywatch. Think about it. Began struggling with alcohol in the early 1970s. Wearing only sweatpants, he fled a rehab center in 2002. And we talked about Iron Man Robert Downey Jr. Although he was first tried drugs at the young age of 6 years old, what a shame. It wasn't until 1996 that he faced his first drug-related arrest. After a troubling period with drug abuse, Robert Downey Jr. has gone on to achieve some inspiring things coming back from addiction. I just hope, I love the Iron Man series. I hope that people are paying attention and helping out. Farrah Fawcett. I remember Farrah Fawcett, watching her growing up. I actually met Farrah Fawcett at an Oakland Raider football game back in the day. She was on the sideline. All-American. Farrah Fawcett suffered a drug and alcohol addiction that saw her promising acting career thrown into a series of bad twists and turns. So Heath Ledger, The Dark Knight, passed away in 2008. A toxic combination of 6 prescription drugs. Anyone that's offering you drugs, they're not your friend. They're just trying to get whatever they can, some money out of you. They say, come on, man, let's party. The guys who approached me about doing drugs when I was a young man, because I don't hang around too many people now, but I remember they said, come on, man, just try it. You'll have fun, man. You'll try it. You'll have fun. Many of those guys have gone to jail. Some have actually passed away. I never fell for it. And I'll mention this too. And I'm going to close up with some more sports, but I'm looking at ways that sports and Hollywood is dealing with addiction, the way people are dealing with the COVID-19. There's a way to come out of it. Marilyn Monroe, barbiturate overdose, allegedly was a suicide attempt, reflecting her tumultuous personal problems, and dating JFK was one of them. It reminds me of the movie The Oval that's going to be on tonight on BET. I love watching it. To me, it's gripping. It has a lot of salacious behavior in it, and I love watching. Tyler Perry's brilliant. Elizabeth Taylor, one of the great actresses of Hollywood's golden age, struggled with drug and alcohol dependency for years. Some of our iconic figures have dealt with that. So I just hope that people can realize that you can come through it. Major League Baseball, Colorado Rockies star Charlie Blackmon tested positive for COVID-19. We know that players got to find a way to overcome it the same way they overcome addiction. Big C, NBA basketball, Indiana Pacers star Malcolm Brogdon tested positive for COVID-19. Now he's in quarantine. There's a lot of people that have gone through issues. So before COVID-19 showed up, there were people just dealing with alcohol and drug abuse. And no one really thinks about that now. But just like a friend of mine called me today, he said, man, I'm struggling. He needed to pray. So we prayed, and he wanted to talk, and we talked. I want to just say this thing that's still going on in my mind with NASCAR and the FBI saying that the noose that was in the garage of Bubba Wallace, and they said that noose was there, they said since 2019, October. 2019. So I'm sure it's just a coincidence that a black man was given the only garage in the NASCAR universe, the only one in the NASCAR universe that had a noose. Most people, I assume, in your own garage, you have a mop to mop the floor, you have a broom to sweep the floor, you have a lawnmower to mow the grass. How many of you have a noose in your garage right now? Really, how many people have a noose in their garage? Maybe they're covering up some things because they don't want it to come out. But whatever it is, it was sitting there since October, so they say. But think about this. There's some good old boys from the Confederate flying around the Southern Confederate flag saying defund NASCAR for trying to create liberty and justice for all. Maybe they were late getting on the bus, Big C, but it's better late than never. If you've ever been late for a plane, it's better the plane takes off late than never, Big C. So NASCAR's gotten on late, but there's a lot of good men in NASCAR, and they're speaking. It's deeds, not words. They're doing the deeds, and they're making the words, so I really appreciate that. But think about this. In Germany, it's a crime to display swastikas because of what Hitler did in murdering Jews. The Holocaust really lasted from 1941 to 1945. Nearly 6 million Jews were murdered at the hand and the design of Adolf Hitler. Hitler came into power in Germany in 1933, actually, but the Holocaust happened in 1941 to 1945, and the world turned its back as Jewish citizens were being burned in ovens for Hitler's demented mind. But the world sat back and watched it happen. So now you have people in the United States saying, get rid of those Confederate flags. Slavery was lasted 1619 until 1865, and then we had 100 years of Jim Crow. So you want to round up 400 years, we still have not had signed the anti-lynching bill. That President Trump refuses to sign the anti-lynching bill, but he's trying to make taking down of statues a crime. But could you imagine, you cannot display swastikas in Germany because of the Holocaust and what Hitler did at Dachau and many other concentration camps. German Chancellor Angela Merkel or President Frank Stemmer, unlike Trump, they're not trying to save that legacy that Nazi Germany posed in their country. The United States crime is the Southern Confederate flag is still reminding people of slavery. Why not make that a museum display, just like the swastikas? In Germany, you can see them in museums, but you don't see them out in public display. It's a crime. You can go to jail for 3 years. And then POTUS is saying that he will do whatever he can. He vows to protect the Confederate statues and the former U.S. presidents who owned slaves, even the statues of Jesus Christ. Isn't that something, Big C? Now, if you read the Bible, Revelation chapter 1, verses 14 and 15, the book of Daniel chapter 7, verse 9, and 10 and 6, and Colossians chapter 15, it tells you Christ had skin the color of brass. I know that may upset a lot of people, but the church has also participated in racism and xenophobia because they depicted the Christ that was described in the Bible. And some people don't believe in the Bible, but for those of you who do, when you confess in Romans 10 and 9 that Christ died for your sins, and if you confess Romans 10 and 9 that you'll have life and have life more everlasting, that you're saved. Well, Christ has skin the color of brass. And I just challenge whether it's the Pope or whether it's any bishop, any pastor, anywhere, when you have that picture of a white Jesus in your church, that was also done as a part of colonialism. And that was to help with some white superiority complex. Because all I ask is open that book that you read in church, and some of you don't read the Bible in church anyway, you'll do your own lessons. But take that scripture that showed Christ being pale and white and put it there so the people who come to your church can see it. Would you believe some people get mad when you say that? Because they think, oh, that's anathema. Christ was everybody. Then they painted him white. A lot of the churches did, but you can't find it in the Bible. I've read it 7 times. My grandfather was a pastor. He probably read it 37 times. But I never saw where Christ was white until I went to churches where mostly white pastors would have that image on their wall. And they wonder, how does racism get started? It started when you lie. Lying on Jesus is not good. So people have their own thoughts about it. Germany did the right thing, taking down the swastikas. POTUS take down those Confederate flags. He was not a Southerner anyway. He says he wants to protect their heritage. The closest he came to the Ku Klux Klan was his father was arrested at a Klan's rally in 1927 in New York City. He wasn't in South Carolina. But there's a lot of dog whistles about POTUS and what he's doing too. I was talking to another friend, as I mentioned today. We talked about that. It's just not right. I hope NASCAR can do the right thing. They're trying. Nobody's perfect. And I hope that everybody has a chance to make a mistake and atone for it. Sports is coming back. It can get our mind off of things. But I want to make sure that people can stay healthy. Stay healthy and happy. I really appreciate what happened on television, the Black Lives Matter movement at the ESPYs. Athletes from Malcolm Jenkins put together Black Lives Matter video. Lindsey Vonn, Coach Steve Kerr, Russell Wilson, many others share the same Big C Sports platform. We're looking for liberty and justice for all. I really believe in that. Our show goes by too fast. I also want to make sure I give another spiel out. Joe Rogan signed a $100 million contract to take his podcast to Spotify. And Don Ostroff is the chief content advertising business officer for Spotify. And I know bringing on Big C Sports too, we'll take the $100 million. Our show is better than his. You can Google it. I'm not bragging. I'm just saying that we have more numbers in the top 1% of shows. In fact, in the top 100 podcasts of 250,000 podcasts on iHeartRadio. Got that documentation. I know it's real, and I thank God for that. I want to close out with 2 more things, because I hope that everybody can just stay safe and reach out to people that you care about. Make sure they're doing good. We the people of the United States in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our prosperity, do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States of America. We're not a perfect country, but if we keep talking, we can form a more perfect union. Google U.S. Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, the Black Marshall Plan. We did it for Germany and Western Europe. We can do it for African American society. It helps everybody. Just Google it. U.S. Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, the Marshall Plan put on by the Black Caucus. As we always say, Big C, back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. And as I believe you would say, Big C, the words of everybody wants to be significant. Tell people you love them. Tell people you forgive them. We got 2 eyes to see, 2 ears to listen, 2 nostrils to breathe, and 1 mouth to talk. If we all do more listening and read, and don't be offended when the truth shall set you free. You can find out the truth every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, that's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. If you know any man or woman or child going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.